Hello, everybody. This is MQMZ, and I am here after a short recess for another version of Notes for the Art of Leadership book, and this will be number 7. I'm going to discuss something I don't think that we have clear vision on right now in the community, and that would be the principle of sovereignty. But I'm going to couch it in the context of leadership, and I'm going to go into a little historical, perspective, and then try to bring it on home with a somewhat of a conclusion, but definitely something that we can use to have further conversation and discourse on. So what I would like to do, as I normally do, is read something from the Art of Leadership book, as you know. And this will be from the preface of the book, and it will be on page 8 and 9, the lower part of 8 and the upper part of 9. And I will start off our discourse this way. In the preface, however, it is important to note that leadership is not reserved for those who hold prominent positions or wield great influence. This has always been our death knell to failure, with the initiated or inflated ego leading the way. Each and every one of us has the ability and the capacity to lead and make a positive impact on our spheres of influence, whether it be within our families, communities, or workplaces. This book aims to inspire and equip you with the necessary tools to harness your leadership potential and become an agent of change. The change that would eventually lead to African nation sovereignty and independence. And I'm going to work on that passage right there. The change that will eventually lead to African nation sovereignty and independence. As you embark on this journey of discovery and growth, I encourage you to reflect on our own experiences and beliefs about leadership. Embrace the opportunity to challenge your assumptions, expand your horizons, develop a deeper understanding that it would demand sacrifice on many levels. And this is why I'm having this conversation with you guys today. And I want to expound on the fact that we need to embrace any opportunity to challenge our assumptions on everything and anything, expand our horizons, and develop a deeper understanding of what it will take to accomplish those things. And a lot of times it means sacrifice on many levels. That doesn't mean that we're going to sacrifice our lives, although it comes to that, the rubber will meet the road when it comes to that, and we'll have to sacrifice our lives, but sacrifice personal discretions that we have on a daily basis. Sometimes we have to sacrifice some time to do more studying, sacrifice some of our vices that we may have so we can be more adept in educating our friends, family, and acquaintances. All right, so the Europeans, in a historical perspective, the Europeans came to these shores, the North American continent, to establish a new nation. So that concept of nation was totally different than what we're talking about as Africans looking for a nation, because the times are totally different. There was a geographical way that they can pursue their goals for nationhood. We have theoretically that opportunity on the mother continent, but neocolonialism has basically closed those doors there for us to establish a nation for our needs. Can existing nations, African nations as they exist today, provide, the things that we need to have what we consider a nation and sovereignty, that is something that is very, very difficult to achieve right now in this day and age, even though geographically the opportunity is there, but realistically, it's not going to happen. The Europeans had a vision. It was a virgin vision because, like I said, the opportunity was there. The geographical opportunity was there, but it had to be a revolution. Again, the time was totally different. Technology has advanced to the point now where military pursuit in establishing a nation or creating a nation, that's also going to be a very, very difficult charge, a very, very difficult thing to do. We have to be realistic about this. This is what leadership is all about, to tell the truth and to be honest about that. Can we become a nation within a nation? Of course, that is what we're trying to do. That is what we're striving to do. Any African warrior knows that is his charge. That is his goal. And that is his mission, to create the consciousness of Africans and Africanhood in African people. So going back to the European, they established their nation based on Christian ideals. It's supposed to have been a nation built based on the law of God, common law, civil law. Now, we know that the founding fathers did their Constitution, their Bill of Rights, and things like that based on their so-called law of God, the common law and civil law. But we know that the thing that they escaped from was dystopian. It was draconian. But their oppression in Europe under the feudalistic system was based on class. So their idea of nationhood, again, in its virgin stages, was based on that. Now, once they got the power and the influence that they needed to bring Africans over here as slaves, this so-called concept of Christian ideals, these Bill of Rights, these constitutions, supposedly it was supposed to be equal rights to mankind, to men. The way that they went around that was to label us Africans as less than a human, less than a man. And this is why the civil rights movement had to become one of those things that was instrumental in at least giving us some of the rights that we have today, or most of the rights that we have today. But back then, anything that was written constitutionally was not meant for us. So how Christian is that? I would say that is not a very Christian-like thing to do at all. Now, here is the subterfuge. Here is where the confusion comes in at. The so-called founding fathers were espousing a Christian nation, but at the same time, they were laying the foundation of a confederated nation with the example of ancient Kemet. And they were Freemasons, also based on Kemetic spirituality. Everything about what they what they did actually, and what they implemented into their cultural foundation was Kemetic. It was Kemetic. We can look at, you know what? I think it would be better if I just read something real quick. And let me see, where did I think it was 86, 87. The book I'm going to read out of is called Government by Consent. and it's by Jonathan Darish. And on page 86 and 87, it talks about the founding fathers. And this is going to do a lot better job than I did in trying to explain what I'm trying to say. Our founding fathers realized the threat and saw how the common law in Britain was being subverted via statutes practiced by bar attorneys holding the title Esquire, and thereby foresaw the potential of the same by an American bar. Esquires are taught only civil law and are completely oblivious to common law and the aforesaid formula for freedom. Therefore, titles of nobility were prohibited in both Article 6 of the Articles of Confederation and Article 1, Section 9 and 10 of the Constitution. So anybody who was trying to go by a title from the feudalistic system of Europe did not have any rights here under the new Constitution. You weren't recognized because it was feudalistic. They were going to a whole new system, a whole new reality of how to run government. In The Birth of a Nation, which is the following page on 87, it talks about how the common law, we, the sovereign people, laid the foundation of our Constitution, calling upon our Creator, acknowledging the covenant with God by establishing the law of land. And that is the common law, that is the Bill of Rights and the way that it expresses it. Acknowledgement of this covenant with God under his law was made clear in the Declaration of Independence written by Thomas Jefferson. Okay, so the law of the land and the structure of the government was designed as an illustration of the original seal of the United States, which was the Israelites' exodus out of slavery and bondage from Egypt. Benjamin Franklin had a similar idea to Jefferson and wanted to illustrate that scene from the exodus of the Israelites. So as you can see, it was based on Christianity, but that was just that was just packaging. That was just the illusion that they wanted to give you, because these guys weren't Christian at all. They were Freemasons. The whole idea of their nation was to be to have this confederated nation based on the ancient nation, the most successful nation that ever existed on this planet, of the nation of Kemet. So what they wanted to do was put also a seal that showed Moses parting the Red Sea with Pharaoh and his chariots being overwhelmed by the waters, with the motto, rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. So Thomas Jefferson was so enamored with this motto, he incorporated it for his own personal seal and design. So in 1782, Congress, and these were the Freemasons, the founding fathers, rejected the Jefferson and Franklin designs and instead adopted a two-sided seal designed by Charles Thompson. His seal gave allegiance to a secret society that symbolically made the point within the seal that there was already a conspiracy to supplant the law of the land, God, with the civil law of man under a new world order. So Franklin was not happy with the eagle, and that was the first seal, and it became the seal of the United States, as he explained in a letter to his daughter, that the eagle was a bird with bad moral character, and they had this conversation and this discussion, but it became the official seal of the United States with the eagle. So, basically what we're trying to say is that this so-called land of God under the law of God, the common law, the civil law, was a farce. They knew their formula was to create this nation under what they thought was, acceptable to them. So they wanted to separate themselves completely from feudalistic domination and that form of government. We have talked, myself and the good doctor, Cashapp Kilimanjaro, we have talked about how this nation now has gotten to the point where it's really starting to fall apart. When you have conflicting ideals that circumvent the foundation of any nation, Christian on one end and subterfuge and cronyism and capitalism and all these other things that are pervading and disintegrating the foundation at its core, you will have a very limited existence. They're very fortunate to last 400, 500 years. They're very fortunate to last that long. I can see maybe another 50 years at the most before this economy actually falls apart. And if you guys know about how these things will come about, if you had read BAK² by Ba Kilimanjaro and Ife Kilimanjaro, both PhDs, you would know that we're at that point now where, again, the reality, the forecast has now become the reality, and that we have nowhere but the gutter to go to. So how do we prepare ourselves for that? And we can't if we are still trying to subsist and survive in a system, in a corrupted European capitalistic paradigm. It just is not going to work. Okay. So what was draconian? What was dystopian back then came from dystopian in feudalistic Europe, the virgin, innocent nation that they wanted to form here immediately got corrupted by the powers that be, the corporate interests, and the bringing of slaves or bringing in African captive people from the continent of Africa to build their nation, then became draconian, became very, very nasty. So where are we at? We are now at a realization that we now have a system that has now become a corporatocracy. So it's amazing how things have developed the way that they have. And again, if we did our research as the Kilimanjaros did in BAK², we will see that we are all part of this history. Yeah, we have African history, but we're also part of the Europeans. Feudalism, the founding of a nation based on trying to flee from the clutches of a dystopian, draconian system of feudalism into the continental United States. The corporatocracy was always there and never left, although they was hiding in plain sight. Their influence is very, very notable. And you can say the Jews, you can say anybody you want, but the fact is it was the corporations, big money, even the banks did what they had to do, as they did in Europe, as they did throughout the history of the what they say common history of the European. So yes, corporatocracy has now totally enveloped our existence here in not only in the North American continent, but all around the world. It has now become a global corporate structure, corporatocracy, ready now to only to degrade now to a dystopian and draconian reality, not just for Africans, black people, but for anybody who has now has no what they consider what you consider economic capital, economic influence, economic power. If you are or on a corporate have some kind of a corporate position that yields power and influence. So we are now going from the draconian dystopian version of non-human oppression, but now going back to the dystopian draconian system of class, which was evident in the feudalistic Europe. So it's funny how things go in a big circle. We're not calling it feudalism, but the bottom line is, as a corporatocracy, that's really all it is just a dressed up version of feudalism with your corporate elites now playing the role of your kings and your queens and your dukes and your earls and your princes and your princesses. So let's get our act together, Africans. Let's do what we need to do to weather the coming storm. Let's be a force that has to be reckoned with on many levels, economic, cultural, and because once we know our identity and once we know who we are less apt to be prey and fall and be fallible to the same tricks and manipulations that have existed for us for the last couple of 100 years. And even now that technology has gotten worse with social media, the manipulation is going there and the control of the media, we still fall for the same okie dokes. So as I said before, Africans, reconstruct your African vitality and your African lives or die. I'm UKMT. Peace and Abibifahodie.